The massive hunting ship dropped from the stars like a dark metal bird. Its shadow fell across the Canadian forests as it landed with a soft hum. Steam rose from the ship's hull as it cooled in Earth's atmosphere. Inside, Commander Vexthul stretched, his 7-foot frame, and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Finally," he said in his deep voice. "Another primitive world to demonstrate our skills." Vexthul was a Zephyrian, covered in tough scales that could stop bullets. His people came from a desert planet where everything tried to kill everything else. He had hunted across 100 worlds. To him, this mission was almost an insult. Behind him stood the other members of the Zephyrian hunting consortium. There was Crixtal, who could turn into living shadow and slip through walls. His people lived in the void between stars and hunted things that fed on starlight. Next to him was Mordak, whose crystal body could cut through steel. She came from a world of living gems where only the sharpest survived. The last member was Thaingul, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a shark. His people dominated the gas giant moons and could survive in any environment. Together, they were the most feared hunting team in the galaxy. "Sir," said the ship's computer, "we are receiving a communication from the local humans." "Put it through," Vexthul said, not bothering to hide his boredom. A small human woman appeared on the screen. She had dark hair and wore a white coat. Her name tag read, Dr. Sarah Chen, Wildlife Specialist. "Welcome to Earth," she said politely. "I'm here to brief you on our local wildlife and safety protocols." The hunters burst into laughter. Vexthul wiped a tear from his yellow eyes. "Safety protocols?" he wheezed. "Lady, we hunt star kraken for fun. What could your little dirtball possibly have that would worry us?" Dr. Chen's face remained calm. "Earth has some unique predators. Our evolutionary history created some very persistent species. I really think you should review the briefing materials." "Persistent?" Mordak's voice sounded like breaking glass. "We once hunted a shadow beast that had been killing whole star systems. It took us 3 years to corner it in a black hole. Your little animals are nothing." Dr. Chen sighed. "I understand you're experienced hunters, but Earth's predators evolved differently. They developed traits that might surprise you." Crixtal stepped forward, his form shifting between solid and shadow. "Human, show us your files. Let us see these dangerous Earth creatures." Dr. Chen activated her tablet. Images of Earth's predators filled the screen. First came a lion, golden mane flowing as it roared. "This is a male African lion," she began. "They can weigh up to 400 pounds and—" "Pathetic," Vexthul interrupted. "I've seen house pets on Regulus that look more dangerous." Next came a great white shark, its black eyes staring as it showed massive teeth. "The great white shark can grow over 20 feet long and—" "We have fish hunters in the void seas that could swallow that thing whole," Thaingul rumbled. A grizzly bear appeared next, standing on its hind legs. "The grizzly bear can weigh 800 pounds and has claws that—" "My people eat things bigger than that for breakfast," Mordak said, her crystal body ringing like a bell as she laughed. Dr. Chen kept going through the files. Tigers, crocodiles, wolves, eagles. Each time the hunters dismissed them with growing amusement. These Earth creatures were tiny, weak, and primitive compared to what they usually hunted. "Is this really the best your world has to offer?" Vexthul asked. "We came here expecting at least some challenge. These things look like they'd run from their own shadows." "There are some species that—" Dr. Chen tried to continue. "Wait," Crixtal said, pointing at the screen. "What is that small thing?" The image showed a dark, furry animal with small eyes and large claws. It looked like a small bear, but meaner. "That's a Wolverine," Dr. Chen said carefully. "They weigh about 40 pounds and live in northern forests." The hunting team stared at the screen in silence. Then they exploded with laughter. Vexthul laughed so hard he had to hold his stomach. Thaingul's booming laughter shook the ship. Even the normally serious Mordak made tinkling sounds like wind chimes. "Pounds?" Crixtal gasped between laughs. "I've stepped on space spiders bigger than that." "It looks like an angry carpet." Thaingul wheezed. "This is perfect," Vexthul said, wiping his eyes. "We'll broadcast this hunt across the galaxy. Show everyone how weak Earth's predators really are." Dr. Chen's face grew serious. I strongly advise against hunting wolverines. They have some very unusual behavioral traits that... Behavioral traits? And Vexthul cut her off. Lady, this thing is smaller than my boot. What's it going to do, bite my ankle? The hunters continued laughing as Dr. Chen tried to explain. She talked about aggression levels, territorial behavior, and something she called persistence hunting. The aliens weren't listening. They were too busy planning their show. Here's what we'll do, Vexthul announced. We'll hunt several of these dangerous Earth predators live on galactic broadcast. Show the whole galaxy how primitive this world really is. And I call dibs on the Wolverine, Krikstal said. Hunting something that small will be embarrassing, but someone has to do it. Are you sure? Dr. Chen asked one last time. Our research shows that wolverines have some very unique characteristics. They don't behave like normal predators. Human, Vexthul said, his voice growing cold. We have hunted across 1,000 worlds. We have brought down creatures that could crack planets. We are the apex of apex predators. Your little Earth animals are nothing to us. Dr. Chen closed her tablet. Very well. I'll provide you with tracking data for the species you want to hunt. But please, at least take emergency beacons. If something goes wrong... Nothing will go wrong, Mordak interrupted. The only thing in danger here is our reputation if people think we needed emergency help to hunt Earth animals. Within an hour, the hunting team had their equipment ready. They carried weapons that could punch holes through mountains. Their armor could stop starship cannons. Their sensors could track prey across light years. As they prepared to leave the ship, Dr. Chen made one final attempt. The Wolverine territory is in the northern Canadian wilderness, she said. The local humans call them skunk bears or gluttons, but the old trapper name for them is devil bear. Maybe that should tell you something. The only thing it tells me, Vexthul said as he checked his weapon, is that humans scare easily. The hunting team left the ship in their smaller vehicles. They spread out across Earth to hunt different targets. Vexthul went after a lion in Africa. Mordak chose a great white shark in Australian waters. Thangul decided to hunt a grizzly bear in Alaska. Krikstal took the small transport toward Canada, following the tracking data for wolverines. He was still chuckling about his dangerous prey. As the hunters began their missions, billions of beings across the galaxy tuned in to watch. The Zephyrian Hunting Consortium was famous. Their hunts were always spectacular. This time, they promised something special, the complete humiliation of an entire world's predators. Dr. Chen watched the transports disappear into Earth's sky. She shook her head and muttered something under her breath. God help them all. The first broadcast went exactly as the hunters expected. Across the galaxy, billions of viewers watched the Zephyrian Hunting Consortium demonstrate their superiority over Earth's wildlife. Commander Vexthul's hunt in Africa lasted less than 10 minutes. The male lion he tracked never stood a chance. Vexthul's scales deflected the big cat's claws like they were made of paper. One precise strike from his energy weapon ended the fight. The lion fell without even understanding what had killed it. Pathetic, Vexthul said to the camera as he stood over his prey. The humans call this the king of beasts. On my world, we use bigger creatures as practice targets for children. The galactic audience watched with bored amusement. Comments flooded the broadcast channels. These Earth animals are jokes. How did humans survive with such weak predators? This is embarrassing to watch. Mordak's hunt went even faster. The great white shark that had terrified human swimmers for millions of years never got close to her crystal body. She moved through the water like living diamond, her sharp edges cutting through the ocean. When the shark tried to bite her, it shattered several teeth on her crystal skin. Mordak ended its suffering with a single slice that cut the massive fish in half. They're apex predator of the seas, she announced, her voice creating ripples in the water. I've fought crystal eels in the deep mines that put up more of a fight. Thangul's grizzly bear hunt was slightly more entertaining, but only because the bear was bigger. The massive Alaskan grizzly stood 8 feet tall and weighed 800 pounds. It roared and charged at Thangul with impressive fury. For about 3 seconds, Thangul's armored hide had evolved to survive in the crushing gravity of gas giant moons. The bear's claws couldn't even scratch him. He grabbed the grizzly with one massive hand and lifted it off the ground like a toy. The bear's desperate struggles looked pathetic next to Thane-Gull's casual strength. "This creature is supposed to be dangerous?" he asked the camera before ending the bear's struggles. "I use tougher things than this to clean my teeth." The galactic audience was getting restless. These weren't hunts, they were executions. Several major entertainment networks started switching to other programs. The Zephyrian Hunting Consortium was famous for epic battles that lasted hours or even days. This was just boring. But in the Canadian wilderness, something different was happening. Crixtal had been tracking his Wolverine for over an hour. At first, he thought the delay was just bad luck. The creature's tracks were easy to follow in the snow, but they wandered all over the forest. The Wolverine seemed to go everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "Stupid animal," he muttered as he followed another set of tracks around a fallen log. Probably too dumb to follow a straight path. Crixtal was getting embarrassed. His fellow hunters had finished their missions while he was still trudging through the snow after a 40-pound furball. The galactic audience was starting to make jokes about his hunting skills. "Maybe Shadow Walker can't find something in broad daylight," one comment read. "Did he get lost looking for such a tiny target?" Read another. Crixtal's pride was stung. He was considered one of the finest trackers in the galaxy. His people could hunt through dimensions that didn't technically exist. But this simple Earth creature was making him look like an amateur. Then he found it. The Wolverine was feeding on something that looked like a deer carcass. It was exactly what Dr. Chen's files had described. Dark brown fur, stocky body, small ears, and a white stripe down its face. It looked like a small angry bear. Crixtal almost laughed. After all this tracking, his prey was just sitting there eating lunch. It hadn't even noticed him approaching. This was going to be the easiest kill of his career. He raised his energy weapon and aimed at the creature's head. The shot would vaporize its brain instantly. Clean, quick, and finally he could end this embarrassing hunt. The Wolverine looked up. Crixtal froze. Those small dark eyes locked onto his with an intensity he hadn't expected. Most prey animals showed fear when they saw a predator. This one showed something else entirely. It showed anger. "Seriously?" Crixtal said to his camera. "It's glaring at me. A 40-pound animal is trying to stare down a Shadow Walker." He pulled the trigger. The energy blast should have ended everything. Instead, the Wolverine dove sideways with impossible speed. The blast hit the deer carcass and vaporized it completely. When the smoke cleared, the Wolverine was gone. "What?" Crixtal spun around, his sensors scanning for the creature. "Where did it—" Something hit him from behind like a furry missile. Crixtal stumbled forward as claws raked across his back armor. His combat systems immediately activated, analyzing the attack. The readings made no sense. The creature weighed 40 pounds, but hit him with the force of something 10 times heavier. He spun around and saw the Wolverine crouched behind him. It had somehow jumped onto his back, clawed him, and dropped off before he could react. Now it was facing him head-on, lips pulled back to show impressive fangs. "You want to fight?" Crixtal laughed. "Fine. Let's make this interesting for the audience." He activated his shadow form and partially phased out of normal reality. Now he was half ghost, immune to physical attacks. The Wolverine's claws and teeth couldn't touch him in this state. He could end this any time he wanted. The Wolverine charged. Crixtal stepped aside easily, letting the creature pass through his ghostly form. Or that's what should have happened. Instead, the Wolverine somehow adjusted its leap in midair and crashed into his solid parts with bone-jarring force. "How?" Crixtal gasped as he hit the ground. His sensors were going crazy. The Wolverine shouldn't have been able to touch him while he was phased. It violated several laws of physics. The Wolverine didn't care about physics. It latched onto Crixtal's arm with jaws that clamped down like a steel trap. Even in shadow form, he could feel those teeth finding gaps in his armor. He tried to shake the creature off, but it held on with grim determination. He tried to phase completely into shadow, but somehow the Wolverine maintained its grip. It was like the animal was connected to him by pure hate. "Let go," Crixtal snarled, slamming his arm against a tree. The impact should have stunned any normal creature. The Wolverine just bit down harder. Across the galaxy, the audience was finally paying attention. This wasn't going like the other hunts. The Shadow Walker was struggling against something the size of a large dog. "Is he losing to that tiny thing?" one comment read. "This is the most embarrassing hunt I've ever seen," read another. Crixtal's teammates were watching too. Their communication channel crackled to life. "Crixtal." Vexthal's voice was full of disbelief. What is taking so long? Just kill the thing. I'm trying, Crystal shouted back as he slammed his arm against another tree. The Wolverine still didn't let go. It won't die. It's 40 pounds. Mordec's crystal voice rang with amusement. Just step on it. Crystal finally managed to pry the Wolverine's jaws open and throw it away from him. The creature hit a tree trunk with a solid thunk and fell to the ground. Crystal aimed his weapon at the motionless form. Finally, he panted. Persistent little... The Wolverine got up. It shook its head once like it was annoyed rather than hurt and started walking toward him again. Not running, walking, like it had all the time in the world to finish what it started. Crystal stared in disbelief. That impact should have broken every bone in the creature's body. Instead, it looked ready for round 2. What are you? He whispered. The Wolverine's only answer was to bare its fangs and charge again. What started as a simple hunt had become something else entirely. Crystal found himself in the strangest battle of his long career. He wasn't fighting a normal predator. He was fighting pure determination given flesh and fur. The Wolverine came at him again, and this time Crystal was ready. He activated his full combat systems and met the charge with precise timing. His armored fist connected with the creature's head in a blow that should have shattered its skull. The Wolverine rolled with the impact, came up running, and immediately attacked his legs. How are you still moving? Crystal shouted as claws raked across his shin armor. The Wolverine's persistence was beyond anything in his experience. Most creatures had survival instincts that told them when to retreat. This one seemed to have had those instincts surgically removed. He tried to grab the Wolverine, but it was faster than it looked. Every time his hands closed on empty air, those claws found new gaps in his armor. The cuts weren't deep enough to be dangerous, but they were adding up. Death by 1,000 scratches. Crystal decided to change tactics. He couldn't catch the Wolverine on the ground, so he'd take the fight somewhere it couldn't follow. He activated his climbing claws and scrambled up the nearest tree. The Wolverine watched him go up about 15 feet, then started climbing after him. You've got to be kidding me, Crystal muttered as he saw those claws dig into bark like it was soft dirt. The Wolverine climbed like it had been doing it all its life, which it probably had. He climbed higher. The Wolverine followed. He jumped to another tree. The Wolverine made the same jump, landing with casual grace on a branch that should have been too small to hold it. Finally, Crystal reached a branch too thin for the Wolverine's weight. He perched there like a gargoyle, looking down at his pursuer. The Wolverine sat on a thicker branch about 10 feet below him and glared up with those dark, angry eyes. "Ha," Crystal called down. "Not so tough now, are you? What are you going to do, wait for me to come down?" The Wolverine appeared to consider this option. Then it started chewing through the tree trunk. Crystal watched in disbelief as the creature attacked the base of the tree with methodical fury. Its teeth and claws worked like a living chainsaw, sending wood chips flying in all directions. "That's impossible," he said to his camera. "It's trying to cut down the entire tree. That will take hours." The Wolverine didn't seem to care about time. It just kept chewing with mechanical persistence, like it had nowhere else to be and nothing else to do. Across the galaxy, the audience was transfixed. The other hunts had been over in minutes. This one had been going on for over an hour, and the tiny Earth predator was winning. Commander Vexthol's voice crackled over the communication system. "Crystal, what is your status?" "I'm treed," Crystal admitted. "The creature is trying to cut down the tree." Silence on the channel. Then Thangel's rumbling laughter filled the airwaves. "Did he just say he's treed by a 40-pound animal?" Mordec's crystal voice rang with amusement. "This is not funny," Crystal snapped. "This thing doesn't follow normal predator behavior. It should have given up by now. Just phase jump down and kill it," Vexthol ordered. Crystal tried exactly that. He shifted into shadow form and dropped through the branches toward the Wolverine. The creature looked up as he materialized above it, jaws open, ready to bite. Crystal solidified just long enough to strike, then tried to phase back to safety. But the Wolverine had learned from their first encounter. As soon as Crystal became solid, those jaws clamped onto his wrist with crushing force. The pain was incredible. The Wolverine's bite force was far stronger than anything that size should possess. Crystal could feel his armor cracking under the pressure. He tried to phase again, but the Wolverine's grip somehow prevented it. Every time he started to shift into shadow form, the pain from those crushing jaws dragged him back to solid reality. "Let go," he screamed, slamming the Wolverine against the tree trunk. The impact jarred his own arm, but the Wolverine's grip never loosened. In desperation, he activated his energy weapon with his free hand and fired point blank at the creature's head. The blast should have vaporized its brain. Instead, the Wolverine turned its head just enough to avoid the worst of the blast. The energy beam singed its fur and probably gave it a massive headache, but it didn't let go. Crixtal fired again. And again. Each time, the Wolverine simply endured the pain and maintained its death grip on his wrist. "What are you made of?" Crixtal gasped. The Wolverine's only answer was to bite down harder. Finally, Crixtal managed to pry the creature's jaws open with his weapon barrel. The Wolverine released him and dropped to the ground, looking slightly dazed from the energy blasts. Crixtal clutched his damaged wrist and retreated to a safe distance. His armor was cracked, his systems were overheating, and his pride was in tatters. But at least the fight was over. The Wolverine shook its head, looked around until it spotted him, and started walking in his direction again. "No," Crixtal whispered. "You're hurt. You're supposed to retreat now." The Wolverine broke into a run. "I need backup," Crixtal said into his communicator as he turned and fled. "Send everyone now." "Backup?" Vexthol's voice was incredulous. "Against one small animal?" "Trust me," Crixtal panted as he crashed through the underbrush with the Wolverine in pursuit. "This isn't a normal animal. This is something else." Commander Vexthol was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was cold with anger. "Fine, we're coming to you. But this better not be some elaborate joke." Crixtal looked over his shoulder at the Wolverine following him with relentless determination. It wasn't running at full speed anymore. The energy blasts had clearly hurt it. But it wasn't stopping either. It would follow him until one of them died. "No joke," he said grimly. "This thing, it doesn't know how to quit." 20 minutes later, the other 3 hunters arrived at Crixtal's location. They found their teammate hanging from a tree branch, exhausted and bloody. Below him, the Wolverine sat in the snow, looking up with patient malevolence. "That's it?" Vexthol said as he looked at the small, furry creature. "That's what has you running scared?" "Don't underestimate it," Crixtal warned. "It's not like anything we've hunted before." Thangol laughed and stepped forward. "Watch and learn, Shadow Walker. This is how you handle small prey." The Wolverine turned to face the new threat. If it was intimidated by Thangol's massive size, it didn't show it. Instead, it lowered its head and made a sound that was part growl, part snarl, and part challenge. "Oh, it wants to fight," Thangol chuckled. "This should be fun." As the massive alien hunter approached, the Wolverine did something that surprised everyone. Instead of retreating or waiting for the attack, it charged straight at something 10 times its size. And that's when the real fight began. The Wolverine's charge at Thangol should have been suicidal. The massive hunter stood over 8 feet tall and weighed close to 1,000 pounds. His people had evolved in the crushing gravity of gas giant moons. He could bend steel with his bare hands. None of that mattered to the Wolverine. The small creature hit Thangol's leg like a furry cannonball and immediately started climbing. Its claws punched through his thick hide as it scrambled up his body, treating him like a living mountain to be conquered. "Get it off," Thangol roared, swatting at the Wolverine as it climbed toward his head. "It's actually hurting me." That statement sent shockwaves through the galactic audience. Thangol's people were legendary for their toughness. They could survive in environments that would crush most life forms. The idea that a 40-pound Earth animal could hurt him was impossible. But the Wolverine's claws were finding gaps in his natural armor, and its bite was strong enough to punch through his hide. Worse, the creature seemed to know exactly where to attack for maximum effect. "Hold still," Mordak commanded as she moved to help. Her crystal body rang like a bell as she prepared to slice the Wolverine off her teammate. The Wolverine saw her coming and did something that defied tactical logic. Instead of trying to escape, it jumped from Thangol directly at Mordak's razor-sharp form. Mordak's body could cut through starship hulls. The Wolverine should have been sliced in half the moment it touched her. Instead, it somehow landed on the one small area of her back where the crystal plates didn't quite meet. Its claws found purchase in the tiny gap, and suddenly it was riding her like a furry backpack. How is it not cut to ribbons? Mordak spun in circles trying to dislodge her passenger. Her crystal body created a singing tone as she moved, but the Wolverine held on with grim determination. Commander Vexthol watched this chaos with growing disbelief. His elite hunting team was being made to look like amateurs by a single small animal. The galactic audience was going wild. Comments flooded the broadcast faster than the systems could display them. "The Earth creature is winning. How is this possible? These hunters are jokes." I want to adopt a Wolverine. Vexthal's reputation was being destroyed in real time. He had to end this before it got worse. Everyone back off, he commanded. I'll handle this personally. The other hunters retreated as Vexthal activated his full combat systems. His scales hardened to their maximum density. His energy weapon charged to lethal levels. His people were the apex predators of the desert worlds, evolved to hunt the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The Wolverine dropped from Mordak's back and turned to face this new challenger. It was clearly injured now. Krixtal's energy blasts had singed its fur. Thanagal's swats had bruised its ribs. Mordak's crystal edges had left shallow cuts on its hide. Any reasonable creature would have retreated. The Wolverine just lowered its head and prepared to fight again. You don't know when to quit, do you? Vexthal said as he raised his weapon. Fine, let me teach you. He fired a blast that could have punched through a tank. The Wolverine dove aside, but not quite fast enough. The energy beam clipped its shoulder and sent it tumbling through the snow. Vexthal smiled as he saw the creature lying motionless. Finally, now we can— The Wolverine got up, not just got up. It shook itself off like the energy blast had been a minor annoyance and fixed Vexthal with a stare that could have melted steel. Impossible, Vexthal whispered. That blast should have killed you 3 times over. The Wolverine started walking toward him. Not running this time. Walking. Like it had all the time in the world and infinite patience to finish what it started. Vexthal fired again. The Wolverine took the blast full in the chest and went down. This time he was sure it was over. The Wolverine got up again. What are you? Vexthal screamed as he fired blast after blast. Each shot knocked the Wolverine down. Each time it got back up and continued its advance. The galactic audience was in uproar. They were watching something that shouldn't exist, a creature that refused to be defeated no matter how much damage it took. Sir, Krixtal's voice was tight with fear. Maybe we should retreat, regroup, and— We don't retreat from Earth animals. Vexthal snarled, but his voice cracked slightly. The Wolverine was only 10 feet away now, still advancing despite the massive damage it had taken. In desperation, he activated his species' ultimate weapon. Bioelectric organs throughout his body began to charge. This was the attack his people used to bring down the great sand dragons of their homeworld. The discharge could level small buildings. You want to keep fighting? He roared as electricity crackled around his scales. Then let's finish this. The bioelectric blast erupted from his body like a miniature lightning storm. The energy was enough to power a small city. It should have reduced the Wolverine to component atoms. The blast picked up the small creature and hurled it 50 feet through the air. It hit a large boulder with a sickening crack and slumped to the ground, motionless. Vexthal stood panting in the sudden silence. His bioelectric organs were completely drained. That was the most powerful attack his species could produce. Nothing survived a full discharge. Is it over? Thanagal asked quietly. They all stared at the motionless form by the boulder. The Wolverine's fur was singed black. Its body was twisted at an unnatural angle. Surely nothing could survive that level of destruction. For a full minute, there was no movement. The hunters began to relax. The galactic audience held its breath. Then the Wolverine twitched. No, Mordak whispered. That's not possible. The Wolverine rolled over. Its movements were slow and painful, but it was definitely alive. It shook its head like it was trying to clear away cobwebs, then looked around until it spotted the hunters. When those dark eyes locked onto them, every member of the hunting team felt something they hadn't experienced in years. Fear. The Wolverine struggled to its feet. It was clearly badly hurt. Its left front leg wasn't working properly. One ear was torn. Blood matted its fur in several places, but it was standing. And it was looking at them with the same determined fury it had shown from the beginning. Run, Krixtal said quietly. What? Vexthal couldn't believe what he was hearing. I said run. Krixtal screamed as the Wolverine took its first step toward them. That thing isn't going to stop. It's never going to stop. For the first time in their careers, the Zephyrian hunting consortium broke and ran. 4 of the galaxy's most feared predators fled through the Canadian wilderness, pursued by a limping, bleeding 40-pound ball of pure rage. Behind them, the Wolverine followed at its own pace. It couldn't run anymore, but it could walk. And walking was enough. It had all the time in the world. The retreat became a rout. 4 elite hunters who had conquered 100 worlds found themselves running through snow-covered forests, fleeing from an animal that should have been dead several times over. Krixtal led the panicked flight. his shadow-walking abilities allowing him to slip between trees at incredible speed. Behind him, Thanagal crashed through the underbrush like a living avalanche, his massive form leaving a trail of broken branches. Mordak's crystal body rang like broken bells as she bounced off tree trunks. Commander Vexthul brought up the rear, his pride warring with his survival instincts. "This is insane," Thanagal panted as he vaulted over a fallen log. "We're running from something the size of a house cat." "Did you see it get back up?" Crystal called back. "Did you see what it did after taking a full bioelectric discharge?" "That's not natural." Behind them, perhaps 100 yards back, the Wolverine followed. It couldn't run anymore. Vexthul's ultimate attack had definitely hurt it, but it maintained a steady walking pace, following their trail with mechanical persistence. Every time one of the hunters looked back, those dark eyes were still there, locked onto them with unwavering determination. "It's still coming," Mordak reported, her voice tight with something approaching panic. "How is it still coming?" The galactic audience was in complete chaos. The most watched hunt in galactic history had become the most humiliating defeat. Social networks crashed under the flood of comments, memes, and disbelief. The Earth creature won. 4 apex predators beaten by 1 small animal. "I'm never making fun of Earth again." "Wolverines for Galactic Emperor." Dr. Chen's voice crackled over their communication system. She had been monitoring the hunt from the beginning, and her tone held no satisfaction, only concern. "Hunters, what is your status? My readings show you're in full retreat." "The creature," Vexthul gasped as he dodged around a massive pine tree. "It won't stop. We hit it with everything we have. It should be dead." "I tried to warn you," Dr. Chen's voice was sad but not surprised. "Wolverines don't follow normal predator behavior patterns. They have what our researchers call absolute persistence syndrome. They literally don't know how to give up." "What does that mean?" Crystal demanded. "It means," Dr. Chen explained, "that Wolverine will follow you until one of you dies. It doesn't matter how much you hurt it. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Its brain is wired to never ever quit." The hunters absorbed this information with growing horror. They were being hunted by something that operated outside the normal rules of survival. Most predators fought to eat or defend territory. This creature fought because fighting was what it did. "How do we stop it?" Vexthul asked. "You don't," Dr. Chen said simply. "Your only option is to leave its territory and hope it doesn't follow you beyond the boundaries." "How big is its territory?" Mordak asked. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. "Several hundred square miles." The hunters ran faster. They reached their landing site as the sun was setting. Their transport ship sat in a clearing, its ramp already lowered for quick escape. They had never been so happy to see their vessel. "Finally," Thanagal wheezed as he lumbered up the ramp. "Close the hatch and get us out of here." But Crystal was looking back at the tree line. "Wait, do you see it?" They all turned to look. There, at the edge of the clearing, was a dark shape moving between the trees. The Wolverine had followed them all the way to their ship. It stepped into the open and sat down in the snow, watching them with those patient, angry eyes. "It's not attacking," Mordak observed. "It's waiting," Vexthul realized. "It knows we have to come out eventually." For a tense moment, predator and prey stared at each other across the clearing. The Wolverine made no move to attack. It simply sat and waited, like it had all the time in the universe. "Close the hatch," Vexthul ordered quietly. "Take us up now." The ship lifted off with unusual haste. As they rose above the trees, they could see the Wolverine below, still sitting in the clearing. It watched their ship until it disappeared into the stars. Inside the vessel, the 4 hunters sat in stunned silence. Their medical systems tended to their wounds while they tried to process what had happened. These were beings who had hunted the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. They had fought starspawn in the void and tracked shadow beasts through black holes. None of that had prepared them for a 40-pound Earth mammal that simply refused to lose, sir, the ship's computer announced. "We are receiving communications from across the galaxy. News networks want interviews. The Galactic Hunting Federation wants a full report. Several governments are asking about Earth's military capabilities." Vexthul rubbed his aching scales. Tell them we need time to file our reports." "What do we tell them about the Wolverine?" Crystal asked. Vexthul considered this carefully. His reputation was already in ruins, but some things were more important than pride. "We tell them the truth," he said finally. "Earth's creatures are more dangerous than we thought. Much more dangerous." The ship's computer processed this for a moment. Sir, should I update the Galactic Wildlife Database? Yes, Vexthul said firmly. List the Wolverine as a Class A threat. Recommend against any hunting expeditions to Earth without extreme precautions. Class A? Crixtal stared at his commander. That's the classification we use for planet killers. Have you got a better suggestion? Vexthul asked. Crixtal thought about those dark eyes, that relentless pursuit, that absolute refusal to quit. No, he said quietly. Class A seems about right. 3 weeks later, Dr. Chen received a data packet from the Galactic Database Authority. Earth's wildlife had been completely reclassified. Wolverines now carried a threat rating typically reserved for cosmic horrors and sentient superweapons. The entry read, Warning. This species exhibits anomalous persistence behavior that defies standard predator-prey models. Recommend extreme caution. Do not engage under any circumstances. Threat assessment, absolute. Below that, someone had added a personal note. The humans call them devil bears. We should have listened. Dr. Chen smiled as she read the report. Then she looked out her window at the Canadian wilderness where a certain Wolverine had returned to its normal routine of being completely unreasonable. She made a mental note to send the Galactic Database some information about honey. Badgers, they weren't, ready for that conversation yet. Back in the forest, the Wolverine was finishing its dinner when it caught an unfamiliar scent on the wind, something metallic and alien, different from the strange-smelling creatures it had driven away. The Wolverine looked up at the stars with those same dark, patient eyes. Let them come, it seemed to say. It had all the time in the world. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.